Welcome to Fiery Femmes, the podcast where high achieving women build wealth, redesign their careers, and create lives with real freedom. I'm Sheena, an accredited investor, former tech sales professional, and the founder of Fiery Femmes. After a decade across global SaaS, startups, and my own reinventions, I realized the most powerful thing a woman can have is optionality. So, in every episode, we explore the future of work, the psychology of wealth, and the practical strategies that help women build careers and lives that evolve as fast as they do. Just a quick note before we begin, this podcast is for general information and educational purposes only. Nothing we discuss should be taken as financial, legal, or tax advice. We're sharing personal experiences and opinions, and everyone's situation is different. So, always do your own research and speak with a licensed professional before making financial decisions. Ash, thank you so much for obviously being on the pod, agreeing to have a
Of
chat, and
course.
especially we'll be talking about finances as well. So, not everyone's open and okay to talk about it.
We met in sales. I feel like sales is like you are in it for the money, you're talking about money, you better be money motivated. So why not be transparent about it? Because I think so many people are shy away from it. So I don't know. I guess in the sales environment, I feel like everyone's so open about money more so that that's made it a little bit easier. But I also started my career in recruiting and it's very similar.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to, I guess, start with that. And of course, I know who you are, what you do. But how about give us an introduction of who you are, how to actually pronounce your last name, and what you currently do.
Yeah, of course. I'm Laura Bartkiewicz. I am an American from Boston. We obviously met living in Sydney for 5 years, but I'm now currently in London and I've been here for 8 years. And I am currently leading a mid market team at Ironclad and I am building out the team here. I joined when we were less than 20 people. Our goal is to be 60 by the end of the year. We have some really aggressive growth goals for EMEA with 50% this year. So really excited to be part of the team and the expansion.
I love it. And I think it takes a certain kind of person to absolutely love the scale ups that you've joined as well.
Yeah, it has been a fun ride. I think it's definitely my favorite part is like being a part of really small businesses in London specifically. They're normally big American companies that are looking to expand here and then being able to help them scale from like sub 20 up to 60 up to 100 plus, similar to what I did at Figma.
Amazing. And I'm super excited to dive deeper into that and just talk more about all the scale ups. Cause I think when I talk to other people, like my peers, they're like, I'm so done with startups and scale ups. And I'm just like, it's the best. Like you can mold it
Eh,
to how you like it and what you love. But also there I feel like there's just so much more that it offers as well.
There are ups and downs for sure. And it is a lot of trial and error to finding the right ones. And I think that can be the hard thing. So I think from my days at LinkedIn, when LinkedIn was acquired by Microsoft, that's when I realized, wow, being in the startup, scale up, pre IPO companies, you can make substantially more money than being in a normal job. And I think that was one of the things that really drew me into the startup space after that acquisition and getting like a lump sum of cash, then being able to invest that in a portfolio. I was like, wow, this is just on top of my normal job. So from there, I've really tried to look at different startups and scale ups as one, what's the product market fit that looks like it's a really exciting opportunity? Who am I going to be reporting to and what is the leadership like? Because culture is so important. And then what is the vision for the next 3 to 5 years? And does this align with what I want to do in my career? So I feel like some of the more notable companies I've worked for have had LinkedIn leadership and the culture at LinkedIn is pretty exceptional. And I feel like having that as knowing who you're going to be working for, who's worked at similar companies too, really makes a massive difference. But I feel like I've heard from a lot of people that have picked startups that if they've burnt out, haven't set the right boundaries with work. And that's a good mix of some of that's on you and some of that's on the company. But I'm a big believer of if you aren't happy, you should leave. And if you feel like you're being burning out, you should go because change tends to be a good thing. Sitting in the uncomfort tends to be worse for you than just making the decision to go somewhere else.
I agree, completely agree. And I think we have the same feelings and I guess comfort levels of leaving a job that doesn't serve you, even if it's short tenure. I feel
Of
like a lot of
course.
people stick it out for a year, and I'm like, but your health, your
Why?
mental health, you can't sleep.
Yeah, the company I was at, so after Figma, I was at Figma for 4 years. I was one of the first managers there, to help build out London. I was also involved in helping, like, scale Berlin, Paris, was involved in hiring, I think, over 25 to 30 people, which was incredible. A lot of scale, was there for the journey of the company going from 70 million to nearly 1 billion ARR, which was fantastic. But after that, I decided to take a 6-month break, and I just needed it. It was a time I was almost there for 4 years. It got to a point where they were nearing IPO, and it just felt like the right time to take, like, a break for myself and really travel, spend time with family. And I joined a company for a short stint right before Ironclad for 3 months, and I knew very quickly after joining that it just wasn't for me. I felt like that where they were as a company and the growth that they wanted to get to wasn't really aligned with what they were doing as a business. And though it was a really solid product and the people were lovely, it just wasn't for me. And I knew I could stay there and be unhappy for the next 12 months and be frustrated by the same things every day. Or I could do something about it because at the end of the day, like I'd rather know very quick. I'm very decisive in a lot of ways. I know what I want and I know what I don't want. And I could complain for the next 12 months or I could change something. And so for me, I'm far happier changing something. And I'm so glad I did because I ended up at Ironclad, which is far more aligned with my values, their growth goals, what they're looking to achieve. And I'm loving being part of a team where that's scaling rather than sitting in the frustrations I had felt for a full 3 months.
There you go. And there's no one of my mental sort of beliefs is fail fast, fail often. If it's not working out, we can move. That's okay. And but yeah, people kind of are scared to have that like 3 months or like a short stint. But what I find is most recruiters are actually quite okay with it and they know that it happens. So
Well, it's also like for me, I'd rather hire someone that knew really quickly than stayed in a company that for a year that wasn't a good fit. And like 3 months, you don't actually have to keep that on your CV. Delete it. Like for me, I guess I was on a sabbatical, so I can just say I extended that and maybe that's not the right advice to give to people, but I would. I planning Mine's still on my LinkedIn, but I plan to because I just don't think it
yeah.
is the story that I need to tell. And I think that's the thing with your career. It's your story of what you want to tell, especially on LinkedIn.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I'd love to talk about as well, because as you mentioned, you're very decisive and you kind of know what you know what you want out of life. Tell me about how you've designed your life and your career for opportunities.
Okay, great question. I'm very goal oriented. So I started my career living in Boston and I'd always wanted to do a semester abroad or travel. And I just didn't make the time to do it. I got into a serious relationship. I dated someone for almost 8 years. And then it got to a point in my mid 20s where I was working in recruiting. I was in Boston and I woke up when I had traveled quite a bit. I was in Hawaii, then I was in Ireland and Portugal. I did like a stint in the Azores by myself. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, life is short. There's so much of the world to see. And in America, you don't have that much holiday. You have like, what, 2 to 3 weeks, maybe? And I kind of set a plan for myself because how hard could it be to find a company to relocate me to Sydney? I'd never been there before. I knew no one there. I just thought, wow, I bet it's a bigger version of Hawaii. And Hawaii felt like I might get island fever because it's quite small. So I set this plan for myself that I'd find a company to relocate me to Sydney. I would get into tech from recruiting. I would end up being able to travel and see a lot of Asia. I'd then find, or APAC, Asia, APAC, both are fantastic. And then my goal was to find a company to move me to London. I would end up in leadership. And my goal at the time was to stay a year in each and then move home. And I ended up doing just that. I feel like I was very tenacious and ambitious with messaging almost everyone on LinkedIn. I really looked at it. I was prospecting for a life change on LinkedIn pretty extensively and messaging people and asking for advice. Hey, I'm hoping to move here. Here's my skill set. Do you know anyone that might be hiring for my profile? Would you be able to introduce me to anyone that you think might hire for my background? And after, maybe 100 messages, not even that many, I got connected to someone who said, yeah, we relocate recruiters all the time. Want to have a
Wow.
chat? And so I went through the interview process and I had a few chats and I was scared, but I think some of the advice, do it scared. I'm not sure if you've read, there's a book by Susan, I can't remember her last name, but it's all about like feel the fear and do it anyway is the book. And it's all about doing things scared. So I'd had this big offer to move to Australia and my mom was like, Laura, you can always come home. And I was like, "Oh, you're so right." Like I was so scared, but I was like, feel the fear and do it anyway. And so I got on a plane and I moved to Australia and I joined a recruiting company and I did not like it. I was probably one of 3 women in an office of like 50 people, and they were so lovely and so nice to me. I was also the only American in an office of all English people, which they were great, but it just wasn't what I was hoping for. I felt like they all had their own little lives. It was really hard to meet people. So I moved to Sydney and I started messaging so many people saying, "Who do you know? Is there anyone you could introduce me to? I'd love to hear like how to set my life up because I moved here and I don't know anyone." And had probably bought 25 people coffee, ended up in mailing Steve Barham at LinkedIn and ended up getting an introduction there. And Steve was the person who opened up the LinkedIn Sydney office. So he connected me
Wow.
to Scott Nelson and David Bellis. And then I went through the interview process and ended up somehow getting a job there because honestly, my interview was not that great. I was so nervous.
Oh my gosh, what a time, because I was actually thinking, I'm like, "Who's Steve?" So, that was amazing. So, he opened the, Sydney office, and did you cold outreach to him or someone
Yes.
introduced
I
you
cold
to him?
outreached almost everyone and I'd be like, "Hey, I just moved here. I don't know anyone. I saw you're an expat. What's the chance you'll get coffee with me? I'd love to hear how you set up your life in Sydney." And he said, "Hey, I'm actually moving back to the States, but you should meet Scott Nelson and David Bellis because your background looks like you'd be a great fit for our team."
Wow. So I would love to just like pause here for the audience who's gonna listen to this. Like you sent out 100 cold outreach messages to people, and maybe one out of the 100 has given you like that door, right? But not many people even try because of the fear of rejection.
And for me, like, I had people that were not that nice to me. I had people tell me to, like, figure it out. I had people that were kind of rude, but I was like, you don't matter." But I came from recruiting, so I had been taught thick skin very early on in my career that people are gonna reject you, people are gonna be mean to you. At the end of the day, recruiting is a numbers game. You need to get 20 yeses to get a no. Sales is a numbers game. You gotta get y 20 no's to get a yes. Same with recruiting, but same in life. Like, you're going to have a lot of people say no to you, and I tend to think of that as more of a redirection than a rejection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love, love, love that message. I always say that you have to shoot the shot. You have to just like try and you get the reps in. It's fine if you kind of embarrass yourself. It's fine if you fail a few times, but you just have to try.
And that's how you learn for me, and that's how I think I approached so I went from recruiting into sales at LinkedIn, and I think that's how I approached it. When I took a recruiting job, I started as a receptionist, and I had so many people tell me that, like, "It's really hard, you're not going to do well. The only people that have worked here are very tenured, they all do. They're all exceptional, they know everyone." I was like, "Okay, well, what do you do every day?" And I was talking, like, the top people and they're like, "Well, here's what I do." And My goal was I was going to email more people than they did. I was going to call more people than they did every day until something clicked. And then I was going to try to teach myself the foundations of like how to be better at this and read everything. Then it clicked. And then I didn't have to work as hard because I could work smarter. And I applied the same thing in sales. And I think that just tends to pay off. But you're going to have in sales and roles where you're cold calling, where you're emailing people, you're going to have people tell you like to screw off and they're going to be like, I don't want to talk to you. Why are you calling me? You're going to have people hang up on you and who cares? That's more about them than it is about you. It's not a big deal.
Exactly. I love it. I wish more people have that mentality because I feel like they just wouldn't take things so personally and move on with their life.
Exactly. And it's like you have to remember it's not personal.
Yeah. It's about them. Something happened at their home, at their job. It's not about you.
And the faster you can brush it off, like the easier it is to just get back into it. So it's like just move on to the next as quickly as you can and then laugh about it at the end of the day and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you say that, I mean, how did these conversations with your peers in recruitment, in sales, how has it shaped your career decisions? And did they expose you to like opportunities that you probably wouldn't have seen if you weren't in that environment?
For sure. So when I joined the recruiting company in the States, I'd always heard about this woman who was their top performer who moved to Australia. She picked up her life and moved to Australia with a partner. And I feel like that definitely got into the back of my mind like anything's possible. This woman did really well out of nowhere and then was able to move her life. I'm like, how hard could it be? So I feel like you hear these things and they just like then I was able to come into a recruiting role and do quite well for myself. And then I was like, how hard could it be? Once you figure out these certain things, you're like, okay, well, okay, it's going to be hard, but I have a day to do as much stuff as anyone else. If I can do like 5% more, like, why not? Maybe that'll really help me out. And I think the same thing at LinkedIn. Like, I think working at LinkedIn really set up a strong foundation for me because I was surrounded by some incredible people that were very hardworking. So I felt like we worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like kind of late nights. Like Monday and Tuesday were probably our later nights, and we'd be prospecting all day. Wednesday and Thursday would be like Wednesday I'd probably work late-ish, but Thursday, Friday, kind of a wash. Thursday, I'd leave at like 4:30. Friday, I'd probably leave at 2. It'd be like I would really set my week up, and we kind of all did this, so you were in it together of working late nights with similar people, of like prospecting, trying to generate opportunity, but then like you share a lot of ideas at the time. So I remember J Ray and JP always talking about investing, and I feel like when the LinkedIn acquisition went through, Microsoft went through, like everyone had cash from that. And for me, I was like, oh, everyone else is investing in the stock market. I should be investing in the stock market. So I feel like when you're with a group of people that are all openly talking about money, it makes it a lot easier to talk about money. And I feel like that really set me up for a strong foundation of thinking I should be investing in the stock market every quarter. Every time I'm getting paid commission, I should be investing.
I
And I've
love
just
it. And
carried that into my life.
did you know about stock investing before J Ray and JP told you about it?
I did, but I didn't realize how accessible it would be to me until the LinkedIn acquisition went through and I had a lump sum of money to play with. And thankfully for my past self, I put most of that in Microsoft, which paid off pretty well. And then dividend reinvest. They were able to invest in Australian startups and I couldn't because I was American. So there were some limitations of what I could and couldn't do, which was kind of disappointing because they made some smart moves back in the day. But from there, I started recognizing, okay, what's the tech I use almost every day that I love? What are the other stock? So I put a good amount of money in Microsoft. And then when I'd start getting commission checks every quarter, I'd be putting like at least 500 to $1,000 in the market into things that I was obsessed with, that I used regularly, and that I was really interested in. And I feel like that's what really helped me just getting more of a mindset of like, this isn't that out of your realm of access. Anyone can invest because it really doesn't matter how much as long as you're investing some because the growth potential is incredible.
Definitely. And I love how you're saying that you're using this product, you're using it day in and day out. You love it. Therefore, I will invest in that because you're actually using it. And I guess like the more that you use that company as well, you're actually one helping its growth and its stock price. So
Yeah, exactly. And then I think like pay attention to the news and the trends and follow that and have that be like a means to drive some of your decisions. For me, like the market is always going to fluctuate. So you also, I think like some of my you have to get 20 no's to get a yes. Like you have to understand the market's going to fluctuate. Don't be scared. You're in it for the long game. You're not looking to cash it out now. Don't worry about it. So even when COVID hit, I saw this as like an incredible opportunity to buy. I was like, wow, okay, I'm going to put in some money because what? I'm sitting at home, I'm not spending money anyway. I'm going to figure out, okay, I'm going to look at who's trying to cure COVID. I'm going to invest in those pharmaceutical companies. And then all the rave of what everyone was saying is NVIDIA, like Microsoft, some other big companies. NVIDIA had so much potential. So it's like, I'll throw in some money there and see what happens. And it ended up really being an incredible investment for me. I think I try to diversify consistently as I'm putting money in, and I'm always like following the news and the stock market at least like once every few weeks to see, what's top of mind, what's doing well, what are predicted to do well. And I invest what I'm not afraid to lose. Like, I feel like women our age are so carefree about buying designer bags and designer things. My money's in my portfolio. Like, I have a few of that stuff, but for me, buying material things is so much more stressful because my parents conditioned into me like frugality, like not to be spending on stuff. You should be spending on experiences and you should be saving. So, for me, buying like a designer bag is so stressful. Even though I make my own money and it's my money and like I have the money, it's stressful because I feel like guilt and shame around it. But investing isn't because I know that could grow into something more. And I think because I've had success with that and I know the market's going to fluctuate, like today, my portfolio isn't as strong as it was 3 months ago. Do I care? No. Do I think it's going to be up in 6 months? Yes. Am I here for the
yeah,
roller coaster? Yes. You have to like be slowly investing and thinking of it as in 10 years this is going to pay off. Right now it's going to be volatile. Don't check it every day.
exactly. At the moment, as we're recording this is like February 2026. The market's in the red. Have I looked at my apps? Absolutely not. It's not good for your mental health, and you shouldn't be checking it every day anyway.
Exactly.
Um, like
But I
I know
also
it.
like it is what it is. It's a data point and it's like, okay, I wonder what it'll get back up to. Like if you look at any of the stock markets, they all just like fluctuate up and down and up and down. So it's like it's going to go back up eventually. Be here for the ride and don't worry about it, but also invest what you're okay to lose. Like I made some choices in the market that haven't done very well. Like iRobot did well for a while. I think they just filed bankruptcy, lost like 2 grand, but like whatever. It's 2 grand in the
Yeah,
scheme of things. There are companies that I've invested, 5K that have gone up like 2000%. So the way of like looking at it is it has to be with you're going to make some bad choices. That's why you diversify because not everything's going to win, but some things will.
exactly. And that's it, right? Like you have to stomach the losses, the lows, but you have to put some money in. There's the skin in the game. And I would like to know, because we've talked a lot about like individual stocks, individual companies. Do you invest in like the diversified like index funds?
Mm-mm. Not at the moment. So, because I'm American and I live abroad, it's best for me tax wise to invest stock by stock. So, I
Okay.
do have like a pension here and I have a financial planner who looks after like my retirement. And I'm sure that's where my money's in funds. But for me personally, when I'm investing on my own, I'm doing stock by stock. But for me personally, that's also because it's better for tax purposes. And that's just a choice that I accidentally made that found out was actually better for me. And then I've just run with it.
Yeah, I mean, if your mutual funds, like with a financial advisor, that's what they usually do as well. Like they like the diversity of index funds. So absolutely. I do the riskier bets myself. The advisor usually like, no, let's do this instead.
Same. That's where I'm like, I like making the risky choices, and that's where I find fun. So I'd rather put my money into things that are going to be, spicy or, potentially up and down, but then it's in my control. I'd rather I lose my money than me give it to someone else and they lose my money. So I'm happy for them to take the safer bets.
Yeah, you'd be like, "Oh, I'm so pissed at you," but if
Right? Like I'm a control
yeah,
freak. I want that on me.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And so you mentioned earlier that you do look at the news maybe every few weeks. What where do you usually find this news?
Oh god, I go into Apple, I look at stock, I tend the stock app, I tend to go through that. I'll go through E-Trade and see what it's saying about my portfolio as it is. I'll tend to like search top performing stocks, top predictions for 2026, 2027 for growth stock. Like I feel like the Taiwan semiconductors consistently getting like a lot of shout outs. Obviously, Nvidia, everyone's wondering when the bubble is going to burst. And then there's so much in the AI space that is like making a lot of moves right now, but it's all really risky if it's all in the same space. So for me, yes, the AI bubble is a portion of like, and that ecosystem is a portion of what I want to invest in, but then I want to invest in a lot of things that are not as heavily influenced in that bubble. So I think robotics, batteries, those have been other trends that have been predictions for 2026 and 27 that I try to invest in. There's a variety of companies that I follow, but I tend to read a lot, like read like the Financial Times at the gym. I know, cringe. I'm that girl in the sauna, but I find it fascinating. I want to see what's going on. I like to know. I like to be up to date with all of these things because I think it helps you make more informed decisions. And I'm not saying I'm reading every article in detail, but I'm trying to see the trends. And then I'm using AI to also help influence my decisions. I'm asking chat, like, what are the stocks I should be investing in? What are some of the upcoming predictions for 2027 and 2028? Like thinking like 3 to 5 years ahead, and then trying to look into subcategories within that. So for AI, I tend to use it as like a get general knowledge, and then I try to go deeper on my own in like different news resources or in just like Google. And then I can try to use AI to go deeper into those categories. But I do find it's like clunkier than it is just trying to read a variety of different news sources.
Yeah,
And, like,
definitely.
let's face it, predictions are always risky. So, it's all a lot of, like, diversifying your risk on what you're investing in because might all flop.
Yeah, and I think it's also great that you do your own analysis, like, you actually read individual, uh, places where you can find information. Because then I always think about, like, what if I don't use, like, critical thinking skills and I rely heavily on, like, Perplexity or Claude? So, I think that's great. With the how you use all these news articles and in these, places to make informed decisions. Moving forward, obviously, we know that you've chosen pre-IPO companies, and you're an American citizen as well. I have American friends who's like lived in the UK, Amsterdam, and then Australia, and they did tell me the tax situation is hairy. So
Yes.
we implemented.
Understatement.
Yep. Yeah, I'm scared of the IRS. Thank God yeah. What I guess, like, what strategies have you put in place just so that I guess we can minimize like tax shocks or just to make sure that your affairs are in order?
Oh, goodness. Be very aware of the implications of taxes. So, as a US citizen living abroad, no, one, you're paying taxes to the country you're living in. And there is often agreements with the US that you wouldn't like. For me, I tend to have to pay um, like federal tax, but it's a small portion because I pay 45% in the UK. So because of that, like I just have to pay someone else to do it. I have someone who looks after my taxes. He does my UK, my US taxes. He makes sure my affairs are in order. I make sure I keep everything organized and on track, make sure I do my S bar every year because that is like where you have all your foreign investments. The US,
What's
what
an
they care an F-bar is a file that you have to fill out as a US citizen that claims that tracks all your money over a certain amount in all the bank accounts you have. So it really just ensures that that you're claiming your foreign investments to ensure you aren't, trying to harbor money and hide money from the IRS. But the US is the only country that really makes you pay double taxes. And it's not necessarily double taxes, it's probably like a small over like a small amount on top of what you're paying elsewhere, but it's just most important that you're claiming everything and that you're filing it accurately. And it's painful, it's annoying, but like that's the cost of living abroad.
Yeah. Got it. Got it. That
But
sounds
pay someone
scary.
else to do it is the only advice I would ever give anyone because it's not something I want to manage. It's not something I want to screw up and it's too risky and it's not worth it. I'd rather know
Yeah.
it's done and done well.
Who gave you the advice to pay someone else and also like to really look out for the tax and IRS when you move abroad?
When I was living in Sydney, it was just too hard basket. I was like, how one, I have to do my Sydney taxes, now I have to do my American taxes. Like, this looks complicated. I don't know what they're asking me. So I'm just going to outsource it. I am very happy to throw money at a problem that is going to end up being like pay dividends in the stress that it removes. So for me, I could stress about trying to figure this out and like get lost in a rabbit hole of trying to understand what they're asking from me, or I could pay and get it done and not have to worry about it. So I think that's just part of my personality of like thinking through the risk and the reward and making decisions. And for me, that money is always well spent. In the UK, it's far more complicated. You have certain like tax codes. I think my, like, 3rd year here, the employer I was working at screwed up my tax code. I ended up owing, like, 30K to the UK
Pounds.
government. Yeah, £30,000 to the UK government. I had, like, 12 months to save and pay, and I had the money, I just didn't wanna take any of my money to it's just like, ugh, such an ick to me, like, give people more of a heads up, help pe the UK is like, you have to do it by the 31st of January, so it was so stressful. That was, like, a very painful moment for me of I had been having someone do my taxes, but my your code as your employer put me in was not accurate. So I was being for some reason, that was set up wrong, and then I had to deal with the, like, pain of it, and it was, like, a new job, and I guess I could have put things together, but I didn't, and so then, like, it's just something that you have to be on top of and more mindful of, or it will bite you.
There you
And
go.
I know I'm not the only person that that's happened to, I'm sure it happens pretty regularly, and not being smart about your taxes causes so much more stress in the long term. I've had friends who didn't realize, like, cashing out RSUs would have a huge tax implication and then ended up being like, "Okay, well, I didn't factor that in and I bought something and now I have to pay a huge amount to the US government and I didn't realize it." So it's like whenever you're making decisions around your finances, if you're an expat and even if you're not, you should be talking to a tax advisor and you should be paying for a good one because if you do, you're more likely to save money in the long term than trying to cut corners on a more affordable tax advisor that might not be able to help you think through things to save money in the long term.
Exactly. I was gonna ask you, with the person that you hired for your affairs, did you have to interview several financial planners or they were like the recommendation from a good friend?
Obviously, your network is your, like, net worth, I think, in a lot of ways, and so I was shopping around for a financial planner when I was at Figma, and I ended up going with this guy, Toby, who is exceptional in London, who was recommended by our general counsel at Figma, who, like, 7 other people started using. Not only is he exceptionally smart, he's, like, fun, normal, good chat, so it's like, I know I'm happy, and I I guess I trust him. We built up a great relationship that I trust him, but because I know so many other people have vetted him and trust him, it's the social proof. It's like similar to sales, you're gonna buy You're going to use products that you know other people use because they like them. You're going to buy from people that you know other people have bought from because they like them. Same with my financial planner. And he's also how I found my tax person because I had been using someone else for a while, but this guy, John, my tax advisor in the UK, had consistently been getting recommended as like a great person. Toby liked working with him because he was really aware of like US and UK taxes, investments in like pension here and in the US, and things to be mindful of. And it's complicated having people that vouch for each other, that know each other, and then I recommend them other people, and it's just been a really good network of people who work with the similar people who all have like speak very highly of them. It makes you feel like it's a better decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, shout out to John and Toby.
Seriously, if you're in the UK and you need contacts, ping me.
There you go. We'll have it in the show notes. They'll love you forever. They probably already do. And I'd love to know as well, like, moving into navigating equity, liquidity, and risk in tech. Obviously, we love tech, but we also know there's the risk and rewards in tech. It moves in cycles.
Yes.
Tell me how you manage that risk, and also like your gut, right? When it's like in the moment it's red. Like, how do you talk to yourself
Oh
during these?
God, we can talk about Figma. Okay, so first off, don't join a company if the salary and the OTE you aren't happy with it. Because that's first and foremost. Equity should always be a bonus. Equity should always be icing on the cake. Equity should always be an added bonus because it's not guaranteed. So people who are like, "Oh, I'm taking 50% salary, but look at all the equity." I'm like, "Okay, that's imaginary money. It's not real." So you have to think of equity as like a bonus, not as a guarantee, first and foremost. So you have to be happy with everything else. So, Figma, for example, I joined Figma as one of the first managers in Figma to help build out the mid market team and then really help build and scale out the geo. And this is almost 5 years ago because I've been out of
Wait,
Figma for over a year.
what what does GEO mean? Global
Uh,
org?
in the region. So for EMEA.
Okay,
So in
okay.
London, I was the first manager hired to be help really scale the region. And so though I focused mainly on London, I was really involved in helping with Paris and Berlin when we opened those offices too. And then also some overlap with helping Singapore and anything like outside of America. But the equity game was like a lot of potential. I joined when we were 70 million, we got to a billion. Equity was a big portion of like the excitement, and Figma was the golden child for IPOs last year, had a huge exit. Almost the goal was to get 21 a share for Figma's IPO. I think it exited at I think 80. And
Mhm.
then
Wow.
it's so obviously there's a lockout for ex-employees for 6 months. For current employees, I think there's was also like a freeze for a quarter. But Figma was at 80 a share. Now Figma's at 22. Back to it's still over what it went to market at, but it's dropped some extensive value. So not only did I have options you have to buy and exercise within a certain point. So I have options that I have till July 2026 that I need to exercise or I lose. And that means I need to buy them and cash them out or they're gone. I think I could technically just buy them and then they're mine, but I need to exercise them or they're gone. And then I also have RSUs, which turn to shares. So when I'm thinking of my options, my financial planner was like, Laura, exercise all of your options when as soon as you can. He's like, you still have all of your RSUs and your shares that you don't have to touch, but be mindful that you have a year. We don't know what's going to happen. Companies tend to fluctuate. It could drop substantially. And by the time I could technically exercise my shares, the price was what started at 80, went down to I think 34. And for me, I was
Uh-huh.
like, oh, 34. So I was like, I'm going to be conservative and I'm only going to exercise half because what if it went back up to 60 again? It had been 60 like 2 months prior, it had been 80 2 months prior to that. And so now I'm looking at it and it's 22 a share. it's definitely in the red from where I want it to be. But at the end of the day, like, it's just money. I look at it and I feel different. I guess I have been so used to watching the stock market consistently. So though I know it's a good portion of money that I was hoping would be larger, it's the is what it is, and there's not much I can do about that. I am hoping they really get their shit together and start releasing some cool stuff. I think in 2 days, they announced their quarterly results, which I'm excited to hear about and hoping that causes some trends to go upward. Come on, Figma. But outside of that, it is what it is, and these are all just learning experiences for future gains and future value realization, and for me, like, I'm happy that I exercised half. What did I do with that half? I put it in my pension and I got tax back on it and I made money back in tax. But I now have a big lump sum in my pension that can help me meet my retirement goals when I am 50. Because my whole goal has been I don't know if I want to retire when I'm 50, but I want to be able to retire when I'm 50 or 45. I talked to my financial planner about 45. And then maybe I don't know, become a yoga teacher and do something else. But I want to know if I wanna get out of tech at 45, I can. Do I need to? No. Would it be great to? Yes. But so that's been a lot of my strategy with him. And so being mindful about smartly investing money has been really helpful. And one of the things he told me is, okay, Laura, you have a lot in Figma. Figma's great. Yes, you see the potential there, but do you think other companies could grow faster than Figma? Do you see other companies that are doing better than Figma? That's why you diversify. And so that really clicked something in me. And I was like, okay, taking out half, putting it in this, see what give this another 6 months, and then I can do something else with that. But I think that really clicked something for me. And like looking back, should I have cashed out all my options? Yes. Did I? No. Here we are. Either way, it's going to end up being more than I had to begin with, which was nothing. I had imaginary money that looked like a lot of money with the IPO, has now humbled me a little bit in my process, but it's also humbled everybody else who's worked at Figma too. So it is what it is. And for me, it's just like taking these data points and applying them to your future life, just like you should with everything else.
There you go. Making sure that we buy things if we're planning for equity exits, we buy things accordingly and hedge your bets. You know what?
Yes.
Like with your thinking about like, should I have sold them? I feel like every time I sell an asset in one way, shape, or form, I always kind of like, but what if? So I
Always.
feel like there's no way to win. It's kind of like a lose-lose thing. Whether like you're selling an asset to buy another asset, there's always something in your mind that like, should I have held that? What if it goes to this? And vice versa. So I think it's like it's a worldwide phenomena. You can just never really guess.
And honestly, Toby, my financial planner, was always like, yeah, Laura, what if it goes up? But what if it goes down? I see people lose money from not making action all the time. Better to know that it's this than not. He was right. And I will probably tag him in this later and be like, saws. But at the end of the day, whatever. It's just money and we can make more. And that's kind of how I look at things. But I'll hold my shares for a while before I figure out what to do with that. But at the same time, I've been also talking to my tax person about how do I make sure that, when I do want to exercise these, when I want to cash these out, how do I make sure I'm not screwed in the long run from an American perspective?
Yeah, definitely. And just a note to our audience, we're okay paying taxes. We just want a heads up. We don't like tax shops.
No one wants a surprise. No one wants a surprise 30K bill. I'm very happy to pay my taxes. I'm very happy to cash out and pay. I just don't want to think I have more money than I do and have a surprise bill and then have the stress of figuring that out because I wasn't thoughtful about it.
Exactly, exactly. And this is a question actually that's such a beautiful message for all of our pre-IPO people who's listening to this. Yeah, take note. I definitely my financial planner also had the same tip to me. Was like this is like very heavy on the Zoom stock. We need to diversify. And I'm just like, yeah, but it's going to be like this, it's going to be like that. And lo and behold, who was right and who was wrong? Glad that
Listen
I
to your
also
financial planner. They have history that is applicable that we are unaware of.
Yeah, but the same as you, I was hesitant to like cash them all out. I hedged my bets and just like cashed out a portion. And then looking back, I'm just like, should have listened. But now it's going up again. So I'm just like, should I have sold them? So again, like you
And
just
then at
never
the
know.
same time, it is like, if you're happy to do the long-term play, fine, but you have to be willing to wait. For me, I don't wanna buy property right now. I don't wanna do anything with it, so I'm happy to wait, at least with my RSUs, my options, I'm gonna have to sort within the next 6 months, but I think it's what else do you wanna get out of this? That's, like, really thinking about it in a way of having a lot in one thing is never a good idea. And I think thinking of it as Toby said to me, do you think other companies can grow faster than the company that you have all this money in right now? Do you think it's worth diversifying in that because other companies could do better over the next year, over the next 2 years, so that those could get you to 10% growth or 15% growth? And where you have your money right now might only get you to 2 or 3% growth. So it's like when you're thinking of trying to retire at 45, as I set for a goal, like, is this where you want to keep your wealth?
And there you have it. You got your answer there. That's pretty cool. And I really enjoy this conversation because not many people know the anxiety, probably a good thing for them. The anxiety of watching a stock and like and just can't I couldn't believe at the time that I'm like, why am I stressing over this? Like I didn't have this before and have it now. It's kind of like to your point, it's like paper money anyway.
Yeah, your imaginary
But
money, your monopoly money turns real and you're like, shit, this is so stressful. But at the end of the
yeah,
day, like you didn't have it before, it didn't exist. Now that you do, like try to brush it off. It's not that big of a deal.
you know what, Laura, actually, this is why they say more money, more problems.
True. But at the same time, like I think the more you stress about it, the more you try to control something that you can't really control. And like at the end of the day, you kind of have to just like let that be because there's literally nothing you can do about it. So why worry about it?
There you go. That's very the yoga in you is coming out. So I love
Oh, for
it.
sure. Can you see my this print
Iceberg.
that my aqua bumps is the
Oh,
same one that was at the yoga studio in Sydney that I went to all the time, Power Living in Bondi. So I brought
I
this
love
back with
powerful.
me. Me
Oh,
too.
that's so
Miss that.
nice. I actually wanted to ask you what is this was supposed to be like the beginning of the podcast, which I'll probably edit to the beginning. What is something that is not on your LinkedIn profile?
Ooh, okay. Something that's not on my LinkedIn profile. I love to run for fun. I am very active in yoga and I go at least 2 to 3 times a week. I love to lift. I'm also a regular sauna goer. I also have a Vedic meditation practice that I picked up a few years ago during COVID, which one of my girlfriends got me onto, which like really changed my life.
Oh, what's that? Is that a Vedic meditation?
Vedic meditation is when you have a mantra that is like very personalized to you. You go through a training course and you do 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon. And I'd say I was very strict with my meditation practice for a few years. And now I probably do it in the mornings most days, but I don't always do the afternoon one. But I find it's just really made me more mellow, more chill. I don't get flustered by much. I don't get upset by much. I feel like it's really helps level me out and be better at decision making, remaining calm in stressful situations. I kind of was anyway. I really don't get flustered that easily. I definitely don't get mad. I don't understand people that do, but I feel like it's made me far more level headed in life.
That's so good. But yeah, to your point,
Highly
I feel
recommend.
the Laura that I remember was like super chill. So
I'm definitely
this is
still super chill.
yeah, I I can see the glow. And you've been in tech for a while now, and you've seen the ups, downs, the sideways, the questionable things happening. What advice would you give to 20-year-olds today?
If you're going to get into tech, do it for A reason that aligns with what you want. For me, it was money, it was paying off student loans, it was being able to move abroad, it was being able to like have an independent life because tech is lucrative. But my advice would be to find companies that align with your values and leave when they don't. And if you feel like sales is a grind, BDR is a grind, but it's a great entry point into a career. And sometimes you have to take jobs that aren't perfect and aren't what you want, but know it is for a period of time. Do it for 2 years, do it well, and then move somewhere else. Get like the skin under your, what is that saying? Skin under the game? Skin on the game? Skin in the
Get
game. That is like building the street cred for yourself or the credibility of being someone who shows up, works harder than everybody else, is going after their goals. And then if the company doesn't align with your values, go somewhere that does. There are plenty of great companies out there and there are plenty of bad companies out there. Do your due diligence with using Glassdoor, with talking to other people that have worked there. Try to message other people that work there and get intel of what it's like to work there. Be mindful of what's really important for you in making decisions so that you land in a place that values you, where you can succeed, where you can grow, and where you don't burn out. And if you do, take a work break.
okay. Take a work break. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I took 6 months off after Figma, and mainly because it was such a chaotic scale. And I felt like I was getting to a point of burnout, but also that I just needed more time to be with my family, and I felt like it would really help, like, revive me and bring me back to, like, myself, and it did. A work break does wonders. So, I think only it's very personal and only you know what it is, and it's also hard financially. So, you have to be, like, mindful of, like, savings and planning and ensuring that you can do that, but I would try to recommend that between every go of, like, for me, I think every 4 years, I wanna try to take 6 months off.
That is so amazing and such a privilege. I always think
Seriously.
that I'm pretty grateful that I was able to do things that I've done and doing, and it's super important. A lot of people don't want to or just can't, but, like, it's an incredible thing to be able to do.
Right, like, I'm a single woman, I don't have kids, I don't have pets, I can do that. I also have been very mindful with my money to make sure that I'm, like, constantly saving. Like, yes, I go out, I enjoy my life, but I'm saving. My mom really instilled to me early that, like, you should always have at least a year's worth of salary in the bank, or, like, or you should be stressed out about it, kind of. So it's like you should be mindful of what you're spending if you don't have that because you never know what could happen. And obviously, this was the first 6 months I'd ever taken off. So it had taken me 15 years in my career to be able to take 6 months off. Will I do it again in 4 years? For sure, but I'm also at a point in my career where I can do that. You probably in between jobs in, like, moving from, like, recruiting to sales to leadership, your first 3 to 4 jobs, you probably can't. But I would be trying to think out, like, what do you need? For me, I needed a month or 2 in between, and that was perfect. So, like, as you get more senior in your career, as you get more time under your belt, as you save more, you're allowed to you can give yourself more freedom, but if you have kids, you probably can't. So, there are things in life that really change those dynamics. And for me, I look after me, so it's like, it wasn't that hard of a decision.
Oh my god, it's amazing, and you deserve it. You work so hard. I still remember, like, those, evenings that you would actually be still in the office, and now that you're telling me, it's like it's a prospecting day.
Yeah, always. It was Monday and Tuesdays, and, like, we're always late night prospecting days, and,
So
like, I
cool.
brought a lot of that into my job now, but it's normally, like, planning on Mondays, PG Tuesdays, like, blocked out full days, and no internal meetings. But I'm not
What's
expecting people to work late.
P what's PG Tuesdays?
Pipe gen,
Prospecting?
yeah, prospecting.
Prospecting, is that like calling, LinkedIn?
Everything. So I want my team to, 1, we're planning on Mondays, what are the accounts you're going after? Who are the contacts you're going after? You're planning it all out on Monday, and we're gonna put it in a spreadsheet, and then you're gonna highlight as you go on Tuesday, and your goal is to get as much output into your key accounts as possible. So you probably have account plans built out, you're being really thoughtful about who you're going after, it's hyper personalized. outbound. And so it's a mix of emails, LinkedIn, cold calls, and just really doing everything you can to break into these accounts. Normally, I recommend using like an outreach or a like sales loft. So you have a visual of how many touches you need to do for this contact. So you don't lose your flow because you're reaching out to a variety of people today, say Tuesday today, but then in next week, you want to keep momentum and consistently contact people. So using the outreach or the sales loft, just make sure your sequences or your cadences are like following up. But for me, it's hyper personalization. You shouldn't be using just automated emails anymore. That's so like outdated and it doesn't work unless you're just adding value and inviting to events. But it's a long process and it's a lot of work, but it pays in dividends. So the more you put in now, the more you'll get from it in the future. And I think that's how I like the work you put in today pays off tomorrow.
Inputs equals outputs. There you go. Thanks, Laura.
100%.
Thank you so much. This has been super insightful. I know that I'm going to have a great time editing this. So thank you so much for being.
Well, this has been so fun. Thank you so much for having me. I feel like it's such a privilege. And I've loved chatting with you and seeing you again and catching up. This has been so great.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Fiery Femmes. If this resonated, share it with a woman in your life because we rise higher when we rise together. Don't forget to follow and review. It helps more women access the tools and conversations that build wealth and confidence. For more career and financial empowerment, come hang out on Instagram and YouTube at Fiery Femmes. I'll see you in the next episode.